Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Worldview. My name is Chris Greco. I'll be your host for the next 30 minutes, talking about maybe some things you've heard in the media, trying to get into the details of that. And a lot of people, some people ask me, they go, Chris, your Greg Tech YouTube channel is, about data and statistics. What is this about? Well, the bottom line on this, whether it be the Worldview or the Data Show or even Lead with Love, it based on data. I mean, this 30 minutes that I'm about to give you was done with some research, some actual research into questions, trying to answer questions that would be brought up as a result of these types of world affairs. And I think it's really important to understand that this data is completely and totally available to anybody that wants it. So I think it's important to understand where it is and where you can get it. But what we're going to talk about today is China and Russia. Here we go again. We're China's at it again. Russian nukes to Belarus. Those are the two things we're going to talk about. That Honduras joins the Chinese family of allies, and Russia makes a strategic play using tactical nuclear weapons. So, you have to understand a little bit about the personalities of not just the leaders of this country, but the country in general, right? So basically, China is communist. Xi Jinping has been elected to an unprecedented third term. So I think this unprecedented thing goes about like it's going to just happen. Uh, Unanimous. It was amazing. Unanimous. Yeah. So it's this individual is basically, and nobody wants to call him this, but he's basically a dictator. He dictates exactly what the country's going to do, when they're going to do it, and why they're going to do it. And I think it all has to do with power. Being able to project power. We're going to talk about that in the next few minutes and how that all works. So, what happened? One, Honduras has opened diplomatic dialogue with China. Now, this is very interesting because originally the media stated it is because China, are trying to pursue alliances with countries that were originally allied with Taiwan, Republic of China. So this is where you have this that you go for the low hanging fruit. Oh, we're going to take all the diplomatic stuff away from Taiwan, and everybody seems to be okay with that. It's like, okay, that's a good rationale. I think that it's more than that. I think yes, they're doing that might be a peripheral reason, but the main reason they're going after these countries is to get footholds in all the continents of the world. And you sit back and you go, how are they going to do that? Little by little by little. That you know even in some of the manifestos, in the communist manifestos, there's nothing about an immediate takeover that that helps. Although they did it in Russia in 1917, you saw what happened there. So basically, what happens is it's a very slow kind of nose in the tent type of approach. And if you don't know what nose in the tent is, go to Google and put camel's nose in the tent and read the story. So I think that's basically what they're trying to do. They're trying to get their nose in the tent, trying to get a little foothold in an area, and then expand that foothold to the point where they basically own that country. And this is very important. So that's it. So Honduras has access to the U.S. through immigration. There was over 30,000 illegal immigrants during 2023 so far. Over 80,000 last year, and that's the source. That's the source there. Now I can actually go to that source, and I will at the end of this. We'll talk about different types of data that I brought up on that. China already has Argentina's interest in the SCO. So there's Honduras, right? Central America. And now all of a sudden you're going to kick into Argentina. And I think, in order to make this a little bit more understandable, let's go to the geography and let's go to Google Earth and figure out exactly where Honduras is and where Argentina is. And then we can talk about the different aspects of what exactly all that means. Because I think it's important to understand worldview does. Chris, you do a lot of this stuff, but again, your YouTube channel is all about data collection, statistics and all that. But the bottom line here is that yes, this is where you get the data. This is real world data that you can get at any time, and I think that's pretty important at some of the areas where we're talking about here. So I think, we take a look at Honduras. Honduras is right here, Central America. And you notice that to get to Mexico, they have to go through Guatemala and then they're in Mexico. Mexico borders Guatemala right here. So they're coming through and getting to the United States in that direction. Now then we talk about, different aspects including Argentina. And I think it's important to understand where Argentina is. So I think this is blue Paraguay. I mean, these different, oh, really all the way along the coastline here. Here's Argentina. So you can see where Argentina has an immense amount of land, immense amount of land here. It's Buenos Aires, capital. So I mean, there's a lot of things that Argentina has, including land area. Now, what can China do with that land area? Well, if there's any a type of natural resource, they can do it there. They could build bases there. There's a lot of things. And let's take a look at this. Oh, geez, there's South America. Where are we? Well, that's right. That's linked to North America, where we are. So, all of a sudden, they no longer have to worry about going across the Pacific here, right? Or where they want to control, which is Eurasia area, because they want to control the European and Asia area, which is part of Europe and part of Asia. So it's here you got to remember this is Asia, and here's Southwest Asia, Afghanistan, that area. India is basically Asia. China is right there next to India. So there's a lot of things that they control, and you have to understand that is again my opinion as an ex-intelligence agent, but ex-intelligence officer. But that's basically what we're talking about. So we've already discussed the geographic areas. Honduras, Argentina wants to get involved. This could present the Chinese with still another way of attaining access to the U.S. physically through Honduran refugees. So Honduran refugees come up, and all of a sudden the Chinese say, look, we'll pay for whatever we need to get to be able to get into the United States, but then you're going to be an agent for China while you're in the United States. So now all of a sudden there's lots of situations. People say, well, wait a minute, most of the people that are coming in from Honduras are, they are not as, they're not educated. They have, very, very poor standard of living, whatever else. Yes, for right now. But the bottom line is that the United States, because we are the United States, gives people opportunities. And that opportunity could lead to an individual that has been paid by the Chinese to get into the internal workings of the United States. And we'll talk about TikTok and all that stuff later. People say, "Oh, they already have access, and that's through TikTok." Well, yes, in a way, but the bottom line is they have no physical access. Yes, they have access to information, to data, those types of areas, but not to physical things within the United States. And they could very easily do that. So also, this could present a way for China to get a footing in Central America. Already Brazil, through BRICS, what they call BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Brazil is not in Central America, or South America. But if they move into that footing where Honduras is offered a spot within something like the Shanghai Cooperation Organization or BRICS, then all of a sudden now economically, they're in with the Chinese. So, and other countries also want to join BRICS, like Zimbabwe, Africa. So they're putting a foothold in Africa, and they're putting a foothold in South America. So here's what I think will happen. This is my opinion only. Honduras will undoubtedly be invited to join the Shanghai Cooperation Organization or BRICS in the near future. Basically, the SCO is centralized in Eurasia, which is a big deal because there's a lot of resources in Eurasia. But expanding to South America and Central America will undoubtedly lend itself to something that is really, really important, because Argentina, again, is very interested in the SCO. Honduras, I think, might be interested in BRICS because of economic aspects, because they're having a lot of issues with corruption right now, so they need money. So that, I mean, they're not going to get it through the U.S. I mean, the U.S. is going to give money, but it's going to be very accounted, and they don't want accountability. They don't want accountable money. That's corruption. Corruption never wants accountable money. They just want money. They don't want to be accountable for it. They don't want to say, oh, we're going to spend it here, spend it there. They just want money, period, and then they just do whatever they want with it. So China is making strides in Africa also, including an oil pipeline with France covering Uganda and Tanzania, however you want to pronounce it. See a previous show on that. I covered that. And the yes in BRICS, South Africa, which is a country in Africa. So all of a sudden now you see how China is starting to project their power, project economic power, project diplomatic power. They're starting to do all that. Saudi Arabia and Iran, covered in the previous show. So there's a lot of things that are happening. They increase their footprint. I don't know if any of you saw the actual Olympics in Beijing, I think it was the Summer Olympics, where they showed a computer-generated footprint that was making its way to the stadium. I mean, it's big, gigantic footprint. Everyone thought it was real. It was computer generated. And then during the ceremony, they had thousands of these drummers, and every single one of those drummers were hitting the drum at exactly the same time. I mean, amazing choreography. But it shows the Chinese in their true light, is that the following is very, very important, and to do things the same, to have that joint kind of soul, is what the Chinese are all about, and that's going to be a hard thing to beat. And also reading things that happened during the Korean War. I mean, the Chinese, we sat back and had pretty much defeated the North Koreans uh, in the Korean War, and then all of a sudden had everybody and their brother come over the Yalu River in North Korea and attack the United States. The Chinese, in the meantime, we never put a nuke against them. We never did. We just backed up to the 38th parallel and then went ahead and had peace negotiations. So I think the bottom line is this, is that we talk a big game about nuclear weapons and having nuclear weapons as a deterrent and everything else. But the bottom line is this, is that we're not going to use them. We're not going to use tactical or strategic nuclear weapons unless we are attacked with strategic or tactical nuclear weapons. It just is not going to happen. So it's a situation where, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. So China's going to increase their footprint. They're going to increase their influence over parts of the world, and that the U.S. is ignoring, like South America and Africa. We sit there, oh yeah, we no. Our main point right now is focusing on China. We're balloon squeezers, folks. We have this balloon and we're squeezing it, and something pops out, and we push it down. Something pops out, push it down. Something pops up, push it down. We can't get our hands around those things that are popping up all over the balloon, because we're attacking one thing at a time in a very, very tactical aspect. We don't have a strategic neuron in our body, in our brains, to sit back and figure out that this is what's happening. I mean, come on. We have intelligence agencies that are second to none, supposedly, in the United States. Get working on this stuff. I mean, there should be people that are working on this, and I'm sure there are, but dadgummit, there's got to be something they can do. And I don't mean to bust on the intelligence community, but come on. I was part of you guys, when we, I think, and I truly believe that people that were in the intelligence community in the 1970s, they didn't have the frickin' cell phones and all the bull crap that goes along with that. They had their brains, and what they did was they studied this stuff. They studied and studied and studied history. They read history. They read this, and they understood more and more and more about the personalities of these countries. China is a powerful country. They are going to exert that power. It's gonna, when they exert their full power, this is going to be an issue for us. So the U.S. is going to start feeling pushed out, much like Taiwan is being pushed out with diplomatic aspects. And then they have no choice but to look inward, which is going to be an issue. Okay, next topic is Russian nukes to Belarus. Everybody's talking about this. Oh my God, they're taking tactical nukes and putting them in Belarus. Oh, what are you going to attack Europe? Blah blah blah. Yeah, yeah, whatever. Bottom line is we have nuclear weapons in Europe somewhere. I'm almost positive of that. The bottom line, and the thing is, that's what Putin said. Well, you have tactical nuclear weapons in Europe, so we're going to put tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus. Fine, fine, Vlad. You do that. Have a good time with that. The bottom line is this: is Belarus is not going to use tactical nuclear weapons against Europe. And Putin is not going to use technical nuclear weapons or strategic nuclear weapons against Europe. It's not going to happen. But everybody's scared about this. So everybody's like, oh, we got to be careful. Well, okay. So he's expanding his tactical nuclear weapons in Belarus. Now, let's talk about yields, right? The yield of a tactical nuclear weapon, and this is like, I looked and looked and looked. Really can't find an actual number, but I can get a range. It's between 1 and 50 kilotons, of equivalent explosive power. So basically, kiloton explosion is like 50,000 tons of TNT, of dynamite, right? So to give you an idea, bomb dropped on Hiroshima was about 12 to 15 kilotons. That caused 80,000 casualties immediate, more later on from exposure to radiation and the rest of that, the heat and radiation, because radiation is heat. And a lot of people don't understand that. They could sit there and say, wow, radiation is really dangerous. So is a burning fire. Both are radiation. I mean, it's interesting. The radiation coming off of that is basically gamma. The gamma radiation is the most destructive because it can go all the way through your body into your organs. It can penetrate your organs. Whereas, alpha radiation is not going to be as bad. I mean, it'll burn you. Don't get me wrong; it'll blister the skin, whatever else, but it won't go through your skin. So that's what happens there. And there's the source. You guys can take a look at the source. You can, say, oh, Chris, source is wrong, whatever. That's my source. The Russians have approximately 1,900 tactical non-strategic, that's what they call them, non-strategic nuclear warheads, according to CNN. And there's your CNN source right there. So basically, if they take half of these nuclear warheads, these 1,900, and put them in Belarus, it could really present a problem. I mean, really present a problem. So let's take a look at this from another deal. What'll happen next? My opinion. I'm going to continue to say that. You guys can, write me comments. You can sit there and say, Chris, you're full of horse poop, whatever. That's fine. This is my opinion based on my experience with the Soviets. And let me tell you something. The Russians can talk to themselves as Russians all they want. They're Soviets. I mean, they sit there and talk about Soviet sphere of influence and the rest of that stuff. The people may sit back and say we're a democracy, but I'm telling you right now, they're not a democracy. This they can sit back and, oh, we have a Duma, you can do whatever you want. You can sit there and make believe. You can make believe you're a democracy, but let me tell you, you're not a democracy. So that's what happens there. The tactical weapons deployment, in my humble opinion, are not for use by Belarus. This is my opinion. The weapons will be used as a deterrent against Ukraine attacking Belarus should Belarus open up a northern front of the war. One of the dumbest, smartest things, because it would be really dumb, but it would be one of the smartest things that Putin could do is open up a multi-front war against Ukraine. Northern front in Belarus, Western front with Transnistria, which is a Russian-held area in Moldova. So you could have a 3-front war in a matter of days. You get to open up a 3-front war in Ukraine. There's no way Ukraine is going to come out of that. Ukraine is going to be defeated. Now, they'll be defeated on the battlefield. They'll never be defeated as a person, as a culture. Absolutely not. Not anymore. They'll fight to, there'll be a lot of partisan movements there, but there's no way to take down a 3-front war, not without the US and NATO actually becoming involved. They'll have to become involved in that because there's just no way that, and with a northern front. So in essence, Belarus could be a transition point for Russian troops to cross the northern border of Ukraine to capture Kyiv. It's very close to the northern border to Belarus. They would not have to travel far to get into the city and actually capture that city. So if there are any incursions to Belarus as a result, because Belarus would say, oh, well, we don't have any troops involved, we're just allowing them, we're kind of a neutral country, allowing them to come through, I mean, they could use whatever diplomatic double talk they want. Then all of a sudden, if Ukraine goes into Belarus at all, have any type of fighting, then they could use the tactical nuclear weapons. So that would hold off. It certainly wouldn't hold off Ukraine, but it would hold off NATO and the U.S. because they don't want to have this whole incendiary war that could take place, along that area. So, although not addressed by U.S. intelligence at this point, another front could be, will be catastrophic for the Ukrainians. Will be. There's not could be or whatever else. They're fighting east. They're fighting east. They're fighting east. They're fighting east. They're actually making okay progress at this point. With tanks and everything else, they can make even more progress. But let me tell you something. They open up another front, and now all of a sudden it's a whole new ball game. So how do we stop it? Interesting question. We cannot stop the weapons deployment if it occurs. We can't, unless we actually go in there with special forces and like blow up the shipments or derail the trains or whatever, because they'll probably deliver the tactical nuclear weapons in trains. Just the threat should prompt some defensive steps. One is arming aircraft with tactical nuclear weapons and putting them on alert, which they may already be doing. NATO may already be doing, but just doing that kind of points out to Russia, hey, you're pissing us off. Don't do this. We're going to put, you start using tactical nuclear weapons. We start using tactical nuclear weapons. All of a sudden, you got 80,000 casualties at a pop. This is not going to be a good look optics, right? And also, we're going to use them on military because we're U.S. So we're going to use them on military aspects. And all of a sudden, you're going to have a lot of military die, and you're going to have a lot of civilians die. It's going to be just horrendous. Don't want to do that. Also, contact Belarus directly and tell them, books basically, you have to know that the consequences of having tactical nuclear weapons on your land, as well as the possibility of using those, leads to some consequences for you as a country. You're not going to be able to play neutral at this point. You have Russian nuclear weapons on your land, on your territory, which means now you are a target. And that's, you want to play that game, it's okay with us. Bottom line is, when we have these planes take off with this alert with these nuclear weapons, they're not just going to hit places in East Ukraine. They're going to hit you. So that's an issue. Other than that, the intelligence community should be monitoring any movement of radioactive entities maybe moving between Russia and Belarus. There's methods to do that. I can't go into that, but basically, that can be done. This falls also under Department of Energy, which has their own intelligence. Because even though you sit there, well, Department of Defense has all the weapons. Yes, they have all the weapons, but Department of Energy is part of that nuclear watchdog aspect. So that's important. Russia rejected the START treaty. and the strategic arms reduction talks, right? That was done in 1991 when they under George H.W. Bush, and so Russia rejected it in February. They said, February 2023, we're not going to do that anymore. We're done. We're rejecting it, and they can do whatever they want, including producing more tactical and strategic weapons. The bottom line, we can't stop this, but we can certainly take measures to mitigate the move. So that's pretty important. So summary, China's making very, very definitive moves to push Russia and the U.S. out of the major power category. They state that they talk about Russia, but remember, there's a very, 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 very long history between Russia and China. Russia provided weapons to China during the Korean War. China did not have really good weapons. Russia provided that. The Soviet Union provided that because they were the communist brothers, that type of thing. China's establishing both infrastructure and internal measures to both checkmate military and diplomatic efforts in the Eurasia region and now Central and South America. The U.S. is worried about TikTok when they should have countered this years ago. There should never have been a TikTok as part as I call it TikTok. But the bottom line is that this has been an issue for years, and we've been letting it go. China has data on every single one of us, and everybody sits back and he goes, that's 40 million people. Trust me, if you're alive, they have data on you, probably even if you're dead. The US very vulnerable to external cyber attack as well as internal friendly attack. People that we think we should trust, we think we should know, and both in intelligence community and and other areas. Now, I'm not saying there are communists in the United States government, that type of thing. No, what I'm saying is that there are people within the United States, within the United States intelligence community. Snowden was one. Snowden had a very high security clearance. He had access to all these data areas and everything else. He was a contractor. He was not a U.S. government official. And that's where this vetting with the U.S. government is much more, I think, much more stringent than with contractors. Again, my opinion, years, decades of experience in federal government and the military. Russia has made known, oh, this is the second part. Russia's made known they plan to move technical nuclear weapons to Belarus. Russia suspended START treaty, which U.S. says, by the way, is invalid. The reason they suspend it, not the U.S. says, the U.S. doesn't say that the START treaty is invalid. It says that the suspension is invalid. Russia can't suspend a treaty type thing. Yeah, fine. They can put their legalese all they want on there. In the meantime, Russia is out there producing nuclear weapons. Russia, no longer having to buy by START, can produce as many nuclear weapons as they want, as many as they need or want. In addition, Russia doesn't have to allow U.S. U.S. inspectors in. They pulled this crap before. As an opinion, Russia's always been lax at allowing inspections. They've used all kind of different things. Well, they had a ready excuse with COVID in 2022, and I gave the source right there. In the meantime, Belarus could open up a northern front against Ukraine, which could present a challenge to U.S. military and diplomatic officers. Bottom line, if there are troops amassing along that northern border, the U.S. does not need to make a mistake again and wait until they invade. They need to get U.S. intervention right now at that northern border and sit there and say, look, they need to get the UN involved. I mean, I don't know why they weren't involved to begin with, and get monitors or peacemakers, whatever they want to call them, up in that northern border to make sure that they do not come in over that northern border. I mean, done. So that's pretty much it for today for the worldview. But the bottom line on this whole thing is that whenever we talk about this, and whenever we talk about Ukraine and Belarus and all these other things, China is growing, and it's growing heavily. And the thing is, they're putting their little toe in all these different regions and countries, and the US just doesn't even seem to be aware of that. Or if they are, they just don't really even care about the situation. I don't believe that they don't care. I believe what's happening is they don't want to panic people. I mean, so just to let you know, here's the data that I got about this is called Title 8 encounters, which basically is Title 8 encounters are they are illegal crossings, and you can see that this is by month, but this is, I mean, this is what they have with just everything, right? These are encounters. These are all encounters, not just um, title of authority. Here we go. So I had all here, and you can see that there's a million. That Title 42 was the one they did at COVID, which was trying to stop the spread by having immigrants come in, illegal immigrants come in and spreading it. So this is what you have. I mean, it's a big deal, a big deal. So that's and the thing is you can even do a citizenship here, and you can do Honduras, just Honduras, and then Honduras, apply that, and then you can just take a look at just Honduras, and you can see where Honduras is here. I mean, 63,000. Now this is Title 8 and Title 42. So this, I mean, 214,000 in 2022, and 321,000 2021, and 43,000 in 2020 because of the COVID. So that about does it for the worldview for this specific program. I want to say thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you have questions or comments. Subscribe if you're interested in this type of thing. But the bottom line is that the Greg Tech channel is concerned about data. This is data, and it has a world perspective. So until next time, this is Chris Greco saying, have a great day and also have a worldview. Take care.